Hi everyone, welcome to Roma to Sonoma. I'm Layne, wine journalist from Sonoma.
And I'm Pia. I'm a sommelier here in Rome. And today we are going to be delving into the wines that are hot right now. So I'm going to be talking about it from my perspective, from being in Europe and specifically based in Italy. And Lane's going to be talking to us a little bit about what's hot in California right now. So I wanted to start, Lane, you and I have talked about this a lot, but about Primitivo, which, as you
Yeah.
know, is the kind of cousin of Zinfandel in California. And here it's really having a big moment for a lot of reasons. So one is because the quality is kind of improved, since it was this sort of bulk wine, up until basically the end of the 80s. And it was used really to cut kind of, much finer and more elegant northern wines. They really, producers in Puglia, which is primarily where it's grown, really started to invest in making these excellent quality wines. And you can get these amazing wines at like, under 20 euro. It's really incredible. And people love them. They're these fruit forward, kind of juicy wines. They're very versatile. You can have them with meat, but you can also have them with vegetables. And actually, in Puglia, they make their rosés. The base wine is Primitivo, and they're just delightful. And yeah, and it's really kind of developed this cult following, but not just in Italy, but sort of otherwise, in countries around Italy. So even in, for example, in Belgium, in France, in England, lots of people are drinking Primitivo.
Really?
Like the thing, yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, it's really good quality for a very affordable price, and people
Wow.
love
I
it.
think, yeah, that's really interesting because just my experience with Primitivo that type of wine right now is big because it's not really the trend of wine, is
No,
that
that's
kind of,
true. That's true. That's true. So
but
it's having a moment in the sense that I think,
if you want that style of
yeah, if
wine.
you want that style, exactly, exactly. And then the other one that I wanted to kind of talk about, this is not Italy based, but is Beaujolais. And it's not just Beaujolais Nouveau, it's also the Cru Beaujolais from places like Fleury and Morgon. And that is definitely having a moment right now. I mean, in London, everyone is drinking it because, again, very affordable. It can be chilled and it's very light alcohol. So, a lot of apparently the millennials and Gen Z are drinking it. They're loving it.
Yeah.
And it's just this really easy to drink wine. Good quality, it's really kind of the wine producers have made very big efforts to kind of try and separate themselves from the really bad reputation they got of just this really cheap bulk wine. And
Mhm.
it's having a moment. Everyone's just loving it, and so yeah, so these are big things. You're not getting a lot of Beaujolais in Italy, but
Okay.
definitely, UK, Belgium, France, obviously, it's definitely having a moment. So yeah,
That's
there's
so
a
interesting.
few
I just
ones
think
that
it's
I
so
wanted
fun
to,
when,
to put out there. What
yeah,
about you,
because you're
Jane?
all over the place. You're always in Brussels. You're always so you got your finger on the pulse there. Well, I it wouldn't be a show talking about wine if I didn't mention Frappato. And
Yeah,
since I
your
discovered
love,
Frappato,
your true love.
it's my true love. But also remember, Alberto Tasca was the one, and this is now
Yeah.
like more than a year ago. This is maybe 18 months or 2 years ago that I interviewed him and asked him what he thought was up and coming, and he said Frappato. But I was already a
So
Frappato
interesting.
fan when he said that, but it stood out to me because I thought, wow, this is like something that you really is. I would say it's interesting to me that some things that are very popular in Europe are not even on the radar here, and vice
Hmm.
versa.
Yeah.
So that brings me to the other one because Frappato, I don't think anyone really knows Frappato here. Even my wine people, I don't think would be familiar with Frappato. So it's not hitting here. But as we've talked, it is definitely hitting in Italy.
Oh
Frappato is,
yeah. Oh, I mean, it's everywhere now. Literally,
yeah,
if you go anywhere, wine by the glass, people just want lighter, they want lighter wines,
yeah.
both in the winter and particularly when it gets warm. And if you don't want to drink a white wine, it's just a really, really nice alternative.
Yeah, it's just I just love that wine so much. And I first tried it in the summertime. So I mean, I know that it wasn't something that I wouldn't drink in summertime, which means that's like obviously it was much lighter. But the thing that's hot here that when I've told you about it, you've just said, wow, that's not something I'm hearing about here, is Chenin Blanc.
That's
And
so interesting.
it really is. It really is. I mean, it's not really something that I mean, everyone's making it. Everyone's starting to like, there are kind of certain white wines that are made in this area, and Chardonnay, obviously,
Yeah.
Sauvignon Blanc. And then, you get your one-offs, like some places are doing Italian varietals with like Vermentino or other wines, but all of a sudden Chenin Blanc is popping up as almost like a standard. It's like the second standard white wine for a lot of wineries. And people just are ordering it all the time. I go out with friends and people are like, oh, let's get a Shannon. And it's just hot. I don't know why, but it's delicious, obviously. But
That's so interesting.
I
How
love
are
it.
they making it? Do you know? Like, are they putting it in oak or, steel or?
Well, I am not 100% sure on that. I know that it's ageable, and I know that it's
Oh, it
in
ages
South.
well. So South Africa, they tend to put it a lot in oak.
Yeah, and they're also making sparkling with it, starting to make
Mm.
sparkling with it. And there are sparkling wines with Chenin Blanc here too. I remember when I went to that Lake County and Shannon was actually the name of the wine. Remember, I was dying.
Yes,
That
yes, yes, I
Argentinian
do.
guy was making these wines, and one of them was made with Chenin Blanc. Very, very good. Yeah, it's just a nice new white alternative, I would say, is that a lot of people are having is like an easy drinking, food friendly but can be very, also refined white wine. So I think Chenin Blanc is something here that's really funny, and I just think it's so interesting for me to hear that they're like Primitivo and Beaujolais are so something that's not even really ever mentioned here. It
No,
just
I mean
doesn't seem like it
obviously
should be like
Chenin
that.
Blanc is big in France. It's just not in Italy. But Italy is really going, we've talked about this, but it's really going through this movement of trying to rediscover its own indigenous grapes.
Yes, yes,
And you do
yes.
have, don't get me wrong, you do have like, more experimental and innovative winemakers who are trying different grapes and they're doing well, but there really is also this return to trying to find, these grapes that were
Mhm.
sort of discarded previously.
Right. And
Mm-mm.
I also think you had mentioned once that going to like a wine bar in Italy that you couldn't even get like a big full-bodied red.
Yeah.
Basically, what they have is only light reds.
Yeah,
That could.
now it's only in light reds. It's incredible. I
What
mean,
did you say
and
they had? They had.
they
What
had
did they have? They had
Schiava, they had
Roma Mascalese.
Frappato, they had a very light Sangiovese, but like very, very light. I think the Sangiovese was actually from Le Marche. It wasn't even from Tuscany.
Oh,
But it was a very, very light one, and that was basically it. That was all they had. It was unbelievable.
but that
Yeah,
that's on trend. I mean, that really is on trend. You would think
it
a
is.
wine bar would have a bigger lineup, but I mean,
Yeah,
if that's what
they have an
people want,
amazing lineup of bottles, but if you want wine by the glass, and that's the thing that
uh,
really, because wine by the glass, they only really want to give you what they can open and they know they're going to sell a lot of. So it's clearly, kind of aligned to demand.
yeah. That's so interesting. Well, anyway, we hope that this has been interesting to you all out there. And if you haven't tried these wines, definitely try them because someone somewhere in the world is talking about them.
Thanks very much. See you next week.
Bye, Pia.